hereby call the November 4th, 2019 Alexander County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. At this time, Vice Chairman Ronnie Reese will lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Vic Radizzi's Scout Troop 274. We're excited to have those boys with us and looking forward to them leading us in the pledge. So at this time, we'll stand.
I'll pray. Lord, we come to you today and thank you for the blessings of this day. Thank you for that many blessings on Alexander County. Thank you for this Boy Scout group that's here tonight. Pray as you guide and direct their lives. Help us as we go through this meeting. We make wise decisions that we move Alexander County forward. Pray for protection for our EMS, our medical, and sheriff, highway patrol, fire department, all those that protect us each day. Bless our county, protect our citizens, all our employees. Go with us through the rest of this meeting. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Flag. Oh, we're bringing flag. Okay.
Yeah. Color guard, attention. Color guard, advance. Color guard, hold. Scouts, assume position. Color guard, post colors. Please join me in the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color guard, dismissed.
We'd certainly like to thank our Scout Troop 274 and Mr. Radizzi for bringing these boys tonight. I remember back in my times of scouting and the lessons learned and the service and the honor that it teaches, and we're just very thankful that you're investing in these young men and teaching them about citizenship and about doing the right thing. So we're very pleased with that. This time we'll have commissioners' reports. I'd like to share that I was at the Farm City banquet here a week or so ago, and some interesting numbers. Market value of products, farm products sold in Alexander County. $176,342,000. Net cash income, $71,515,000. Folks, agricultural business is very big in our county and a very big part of our economic engine. And we could go on and on and on, but just want to say congratulations to all of our folks who are involved in agriculture of any kind, whether it's with plants or animals or whatever the case may be, because it is a very, very big part of our local industry. And we need to always perceive that as an economic indicator and part of our economic engine. So very thankful for them. And we had a great meal too at Emerald Hill. It's a wedding venue down on Cheatham Ford Road. If people have not been there, certainly encourage you to go check it out. It's a really nice place. Also, you look around the county, you see a couple new Little Caesars. That's a positive tick. The Arby's is a positive tick. All the great things going on in Bethlehem. We've got our new community plan. It's bound, and the wonderful things that are taking place there, and the infrastructure projects that we have just is certainly leads to a lot of good things for our great county. And as I was at the library board meeting here just a little bit ago, 4 o'clock, and the Friends of the Library shared that they had a $3,300 book sale, and that was a big endeavor because it took on many forms. It was in a county building. A lot of people donated over 20,000 books. I think they said they had 4,000 left. Some of those will go towards the sale next year, but just a lot of really positive things going on. Spoke to the guys at Borealis the other day, and they're working on some agreements with CVCC to hopefully do some courses in the plastics industry and some of those things that are there. So not only are the industries that we have doing good, but they're looking at future growth and future things and building a good workforce that meets the needs of what they have. So exciting times, in my opinion, to be a resident of Alexander County.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Before
sir.
you go on, I just wanted to report that I went out Saturday, my wife, and we took our 5-year-old son and went to the rock climbing festival at Rocky Face Park. And it was a great time. He climbed up. They put the full climbing gear on, and he made it about 20 to 30 feet and got a little scared and decided to come back down, but he's only 5, so I was pretty impressed with that. So he did great, and I actually climbed a little bit myself, so really enjoyable. And the county manager was out there, and they had a race. He could probably tell us a little bit more about that race, but there was a lot of people there. It's a great festival.
Mr. French, you'd like to share about the race and the event?
We had our 3rd annual Run for the Dogs, which is a fundraiser for the animal shelter. We had about 75 participants, which is about the average number we have. We have a 4-mile loop and an 8-mile and a 12-mile race. The winner of the 12-mile was a local person and did it in like an hour and 36 minutes. We had a 76-year-old person do the 12-mile. We had people of all ages and a lot of real positive comments, so we're really thankful and pleased with that.
Good thing. Good. And the people come from all over to Rocky Face all the time. Anytime you go out there on the weekends, there's always people there, so it's a great asset. Other reports? All right, at this time, we've had an opportunity to look at our agenda and entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Heard the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. We have no public comments, so we will move to public hearing. Proposed fiscal year 21 call for projects, federal section 5310 grant. This is Ms. Patricia Baker, our DSS director, will lead this, enhance the mobility of seniors and individuals with disability program and the fiscal year 2021 public transportation program resolutions. Ms. Baker, please come forward. And we'll have a motion to open public hearing.
Make a motion to open public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Ms. Baker.
So thank you for having me. We are seeking your approval to apply for a federal Section 5310 grant for next fiscal year. This is a grant that we've been receiving for many years, and the grant is used to provide transportation services for individuals who are 65 or older to nutrition sites, grocery shopping, medical services, and other life-sustaining needs. So a notice of this public hearing was posted in the Taylorsville Times and the Hickory Daily Record requesting public comment. And to date, I'm pleased to announce that I've only had positive feedback. In fact, several folks called me today telling me how much this was needed. The grant we are proposing will be in the amount of $194,592. Of that, $19,459 is county match. It's a 10% match, which is a very small contribution on the county's part for such a large amount of money to come into the county. We would include this in our budget request for next fiscal year if you approve our application and the grant is awarded.
$19,000 to get 170 seems like a pretty good investment to me.
Yes.
This is separate. It's not a greenway. This is a separate transportation facility.
We partner with Greenway to provide the transportation, but it is our grant, and we could go with another provider, but Greenway has done a really good job for us over the years, and so we would continue that partnership.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anyone in the audience have any comments or questions? Any other questions from any commissioners? Any comments? Mr. Rudisi.
Just a question to be clear on the transportation available. Is there a distance limitation on that for an individual?
So Greenway has, they would link you up or link the person up into Hickory, or they do try to keep it more local so they can get more bang for your buck, if you will. But there's other ways that we can get folks further distance.
And one other question, is that life-sustaining? Would that include doctor visits?
Oh, for sure. Doctor, grocery shopping, and, even sometimes social. We use this grant a lot to get folks to our meal sites, and we have 2 meal sites. And so that is a huge, just the social engagement, and obviously the meal is very important for folks. Sometimes that's the only hot meal they get is when we transport them. So this is a really valuable service.
Great questions. Any other questions? Your motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Does a
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously, and there's a resolution that goes with that, correct?
Yes, so I would ask that you draft a resolution, which I believe you already have, and a letter of support for us that we will include with our grant application.
And then we need a motion to approve the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the resolution as listed in our materials.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Baker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have public hearing on our proposed special events ordinance and application for Alexander County. Mr. Rick French will lead us in that. We have a motion to open public hearing for special events ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I move to open a public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Mr. French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. In your packet, you have the proposed special events ordinance and the proposed special event application form with the rules and regulations. We have talked about this some at our last meeting during the public hearing then, but I'll review. The purpose of the proposed ordinance is to establish a structured process for permitting the staging of special events to ensure proper planning and adequate allocation of county resources during special events, and to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the public attending such events. The special event process enables Alexander County to have knowledge of dates and locations of activities happening on county-owned or leased property, as well as private commercial property where county services may be needed to ensure events will not unduly burden the resources of emergency services and law enforcement. Also, to ensure open communication of event details that occur between county offices and departments and event organizers to reduce the number of surprises on the day of the event. Also, to ensure appropriate staffing of emergency services and law enforcement personnel based on the estimated event attendance. And to acquire event organizers to provide a certificate of insurance named the county as additionally insured to reduce the county's liability for accidents which may or may not happen during the special events on county property, and to ensure valid permits and liability insurance are in place for the distribution of alcohol during a special event, and to determine road closures during the events that will impact traffic so the county may better coordinate with state and local officials. Ensure all proposed events meet local, state, federal regulations such as the North Carolina Fire Code, environmental health, crowd control, sanitation. There are several exemptions to this ordinance, and they have been defined as functions of government agencies, school-sponsored events on school-owned property where a safety and emergency plan has been previously outlined in a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between the school system and the sheriff's office, church activities happening on church-owned property, businesses holding events and venues designated for a large number of people where a safety and emergency plan approved by the county is already in place, events held on property owned by a private residence. There is an appeals process, has been outlined in the proposed ordinance, as well as recommended penalties for non-compliance. With the adoption of the proposed ordinance, commissioners are enabling staff to implement a process for permitting special events in Alexander County. Commissioners may be interested to know that the town of Taylorsville has had a special events ordinance and a process and a fee schedule for several years, which indicates that a required process for special events is nothing new to the citizens. The staff have been reviewing the policies over the last several weeks, and we've reviewed it with emergency services. We've reviewed it with the sheriff's office. The sheriff has also participated in emergency medical services, fire, building inspections, 911, Taylorsville Police Department, county manager, and again, this is our second public hearing tonight. The purpose tonight is not to adopt it, but just to have it out for more information if somebody has questions. The process starts with filing an application with our emergency services office. There may be fees required, but we have not recommended any fees to date, and we propose to do that in December. And that's a lot of information, but again, we've been talking about this. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions someone may have. Mr. Chairman?
Two things I would like to clarify, Mr. French,
Yes,
is
sir.
that, number one, this is not an attempt to tell people what to do with their property. It's an attempt for us to secure liability and control over major events and to ease the burden on our emergency services. So that's certainly a point that we need to make sure that people understand, and that we've left this open for input for quite some time, and we've received input, and we have responded to that input. The input has been very well taken, and we have revised some things according to the input that we have received. So this is a very needed process, but we want to make sure that we go about it in the right way. We don't want anyone to think that we've infringed upon anything or to radically changed anything. This is merely a safety issue and an aspect of maintaining and protecting our emergency services for all the things that take place. Just want to make sure that everyone was aware of that, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just add that, just for the public, if you can imagine, you've got 2 or 3 major events or festivals, like we had the Rocky Face Festival and maybe 2 other festivals, the Apple Festival or whatever, happening on the same day, then our emergency services people are stretched thin. So this isn't, just something to help our emergency services people plan for what they need to do when these events are held. I'd also ask the county manager, is there going to be a effort to identify the annual events that we know of right now and be proactive and reach out to those people and say, hey?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
I was just thinking like the Bethlehem paintball event. I think it was this past weekend, and, those kind of things.
Once this is adopted, we had planned in January to start reaching out to some of the activities that were, the events that we know that are planned.
Right.
And
Okay.
start the process to get ahead of it, to be proactive.
Yeah, I think it's something we've needed for a while, and if anyone's ever attended an event that went south, it would make you appreciate, what these things are here. I've seen a lot on TV, never attended one where there were some problems, but it does help to have a plan. And just as was been stated, our emergency services and sheriff, are working those. There's a lot of things going behind the scenes that, to make it work and to make it happen. So, this is not to restrict anything, as Mr. Chairman talked. This is so we have a good idea of what's going on. And just as Commissioner Mayberry said, if there's overlapping events, then it can be planned far ahead of time, or maybe something, done a little bit different. So I think it's good. I've looked through it.
And I'd like to, and I don't know that there's a plan of doing this or been talked about, but I'd like to see it be able to be filled out online on the county website and done.
We've talked about
Yeah.
that also.
And this is the public hearing. We will not propose adoption of this until next month. So there's still time to, to give input. So we're real excited about it. I think it's going to be really good. Any other comments? No other comments? Any comments from the audience? Any concerns? All right, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for planned events.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, or any discussion, I'm sorry? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. Alexander County Christmas Parade, Mr. Lenny Rogers.
Well, as you know, Dwayne Coley works very close with our office in carrying out the Christmas parade. Dwayne is out of town this evening, so I'm going to bring the update. The Alexander County Christmas Parade is scheduled for the first Saturday in December, which is Saturday, December 7th at 3 p.m. this year. This year's parade is the 73rd annual opening of the holiday season in Alexander County. There are numerous holiday observances throughout the month of December, and the annual Christmas Parade has long served as the official kickoff to the holiday season. This year will prove to be no exception. The 2019 Christmas Parade is sponsored by the Alexander County government. The late registration deadline does not begin until December 2nd, so that as many groups and individuals can participate as possible without additional fees. We want everyone to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity to get in the parade lineup. We have discovered that it doesn't matter when you start the process. When we approach the late fee deadline, people will scramble to take advantage of the discounted price for entries. Our goal for this year's parade was not to increase the cost of entries, but to encourage participants to respond earlier and take advantage of the discounts that are offered. The parade lines up at Alexander Central High School, the Alexander County Administrative Offices, Alexander County Social Services, Alexander County Senior Center, and Alexander County Board of Education. At these locations, we can easily accommodate the 200 entries, which is our maximum capacity for the parade. The parade proceeds down Lyledown Road to Main Avenue, where it turns right and proceeds to Main Avenue Drive. The parade turns right at WACB Radio, the old Alexandria Hotel there, and follows Main Avenue Drive to its intersection with Highway 16. Just prior to this turn, the parade will be videoed for future broadcasts on the government channel, and it's broadcast live on WACB Radio. The parade will turn right on Main Avenue Drive, proceed to the intersection of Highway 16 where it makes a left on Highway 16 before turning right on First Avenue. The parade turns left onto 7th Street to return to the starting locations. Our entries have been reasonably steady throughout the entire process. However, we still are eager to have response from some of the businesses, civic organizations, churches, politicians, etc., that usually participate. As of today, we have about 100 entries who have paid and are ready to roll. We are still working to sell the remaining 4 or so commercial float entries to bring our total to 18 commercial floats, which equals last year's total. We have heard from several of our county EMS and fire and rescue vehicles. However, we're still missing about half of those folks. We have several churches, some cheerleaders and ball teams, but there's plenty of room for more entries. the community visibility, the publicity on the radio, and then about 10 rebroadcasts of the parade on the government channel makes the 73rd Annual County Christmas Parade a bargain in everybody's book. Entry forms can be downloaded from the Alexander County NC government website or send an email to alexanderchristmasparade@gmail.com, and we'll happily forward those forms to you. You also can reach us at the Extension office at 632-4451. We want to make this year's parade to be a celebration of the community and all the things that are good about Alexander County. And the bands, about the bands. What is a parade without bands? The Alexander Central High School is always our band of honor, and they lead the parade along the parade route. We're also pleased to welcome some additional following bands in this year's lineup, and they are the Ashe County High School Marching Huskies, the West Caldwell Marching Warriors, and the Bandy's High School Trojan Band. Yes, we have a total of 4 bands scheduled to march this year, and we're still talking with 3 additional bands with the hope of landing one of those to up our count to 5 bands for this year's event. Our Alexander Central FFA will be collecting canned goods for our area food pantries along the parade route. Parade goers are encouraged to bring canned goods, food staples, and non-perishable items to help meet the needs of our community. Cash or checks will be accepted too. These young adults are providing a service to our community and assist these agencies in meeting the needs of the community. Santa and Miss Claus are committed to sleigh in for the event, so I think we're all on go there. All that we need now are additional participants, happy viewers, and a beautiful sunny afternoon, or a little dusting of snow, whichever would be best. Our emergency departments have been alerted and are on standby when we get closer to the December 7th date. The Sheriff's Department, the Town of Taylorsville Police Department, and the Highway Patrol work well with us to keep things under control. The 2019 Grand Marshal will be announced in the next couple of weeks, and this should complete the preparation for this year's event. There are about 10 or more nominations for the Grand Marshal, which will be passed on to a committee for consideration this week. In addition to this year's event will be the lighting of the grand Christmas tree on the new green between the courthouse and the new Alexander Services Center. The live 20-foot-plus tree will be set in place and decorated the first week in December. Plans call for music from the band and chorus at East Middle School, along with the Grand Marshal flipping the switch to turn on the lights of the tree and the town's Christmas lights. The goal is to have several food offerings to complete a festive atmosphere for this special occasion. The music will begin at 1:30 p.m. on parade day, with the tree lighting happening about 1:45 p.m. Music and merriment will continue as participants await this year's parade. The pre-parade activities are about complete. Permits have been received, floats have been contracted, signage is underway, so we're getting our preparations in order. We simply need the public to respond and get the entries ready for the big day. As you can see, the parade plans and activities are in high gear. We're working hard to secure the balance of our entries. Assistance from the public is greatly appreciated. If you are affiliated with a club, a church, a business, etc., please encourage those responsible to move quickly to secure your place in the 73rd Annual Alexander County Christmas Parade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And if I remember correctly, this is the biggest Christmas parade in the state of North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken?
We've heard western part of the state, we have more commercial floats than the Charlotte Parade. We've heard Carousel Parade. So it is quite a big undertaking, a big parade for western North Carolina.
No, it's taken a lot of work
Yeah, it
to
does.
pull it all together. Very appreciative.
It's always a good parade. I enjoy it. My kids like it. But
Takes a lot of work. Appreciate your county manager jumping in. He helps a lot that day, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In your package, you see a request or a notification for us to schedule a called meeting for December the 16th. Entertain a motion to approve scheduling that meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a special called meeting for 6 p.m. on December 16th.
Heard the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion regarding the meeting? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Also, in your packet is a commissioners' meeting schedule for 2020. Entertain a motion to approve said schedule.
Make a motion, we approve the 2020 Alexander County Commissioners meeting schedule.
I have a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the schedule?
Mr. Chairman, can I mention something? The schedule includes the Consolidated Human Services Board meetings, continuing that every other month. We've also scheduled a couple of possible meetings, meeting September 21st as a possible work session if needed, and also in November. And we have follow the same schedule budget-wise as we normally schedule. Just want to mention those things.
Sounds great to
Thank
me.
you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Can I check a date real
Yes,
quick
sir.
before we approve that? Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Lastly, in your packet, or not lastly, but the last item to consider here is the 2020 Alexander County holiday schedule. You had a chance to look at that. We entertain a motion to approve that schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the 2020 holiday schedule.
Have a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the holiday schedule for 2020? None said. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have Mr. Rick French to share budget ordinance amendments numbers 19 through 23.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 19 is to increase the Health Department budget for additional state Title X funds and a Walmart grant for Safe Sleep program. Budget amendment number 20 is to budget for the purchase of shelves to store and display DVDs, CDs, magazines, and newspapers. Half of the cost will be paid by donation from the Friends of the Library. Budget amendment number 21 is to budget for the establishment of a fitness program for public safety and emergency services employees. Budget amendment number 22 is to budget for a security system for the county administration building. We've been talking about that for some time. And budget amendment 23 is the budget for the North Carolina Farm School to be held by the Cooperative Extension Department. That is a program that is funded by sponsor revenue and registration fees from participants. This is regional North Carolina farm schools, and the Foothills Farm School will be held here in Alexander County. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
Which the farm school sounded like a pretty neat thing. Maybe Lenny can share with us about that sometime. But that looked like a pretty interesting event.
Mr. French, number 20, is that for the Taylorsville Library, or is that for all the libraries for the?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would imagine it's for both.
All right.
You've heard explanation of budget amendments 19 through 23. Entertain a motion to approve budget ordinance amendments 19 through 23.
Make a motion to approve budget amendments number 19 through 23 as stated.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion regarding the amendments? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll turn to other business, and County Manager Rick French will share the manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things to report on tonight. Our water contractor, Buckeye Bridge, is working in the Wittenberg Springs subdivision. This portion of the project is scheduled to take 7 weeks. They're moving along carefully, but there's a lot of other things that they could possibly dig into, so things are moving along well there. The Bethlehem Sewer Project is moving along in the planning phase. We've held a pre-bid meeting. We held one on October 28th. Tentatively, the bids are set to be opened on December the 5th, and then opened on December 16th, which is the reason you made a motion to approve a meeting for that date. And that's all the things I have to report on, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. In your packet, you have the consent agenda and time to look over that. At this time, we entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion regarding the consent agenda? Not all in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes unanimously. And that concludes that part of the meeting, but I want to add something right here. Don't feel as though I did it justice earlier. Our Boy Scouts who are with us tonight, guys, we're really thankful for you guys being here. You're working on your citizenship and community merit badge, and serving and giving back to your community is a really big thing. And it's, in a lot of cases, a dying art. Can't get volunteers, can't get community servants. And we are very thankful that your leaders have invested in you and are teaching you those aspects of what it means to be part of a community. And it does my heart a lot of good to look out there and see you boys out there tonight, knowing the things that you're learning, because in the future, you're going to be the one sitting in the audience and sitting up here and leading our community. So we're very, very thankful for what you're doing, for the heart that you have for doing what you're doing, the desire to be a scout, but the desire to do better and to become a better person. We're very thankful. Really glad you're here tonight. At this time, we will move towards our Consolidated Human Services Board meeting, and we'll open that up with a public comment for the Consolidated Human Services Board. No public comment, so we'll go to the Low Income Energy Assistance Program and Crisis Intervention Program, and Ms. Patricia Baker will share with us regarding those two items.
Hey there, thank you for having me again.
Frequent flyer.
Tonight it feels like it. So before I begin the formal presentation, which will be about our energy programs, I wanted to share that November is recognized as National Adoption Awareness Month. And the focus of the month is the adoption of children who are living in foster care. And I know you all have a passion for the children in the community who we take care of. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention, you know, how important adoption is. And we have many families who open their hearts to children. And I wanted to share some data. In 2017, DSS had 5 children that we were able to find permanent homes for, forever homes. In 2018, we only had 2. In 2019, we've already had 6 children adopted through the month of March, and we have 1 who will hopefully have a forever home this week, and we have 3 more that we expect will be finalized by the end of December. And we have 55 children who are in foster care, and we have 2 children who are freed for adoption. And as you can see, because we have 3 children who are moving towards adoption now, we very quickly try to find forever homes for the children who go through foster care and then have parental rights terminated. In North Carolina, there are more than 2,000 children available and waiting for adoption. So I just wanted to point out that North Carolina has a website, NC Kids, for those individuals who are interested in adopting. And there are, as I said, more than 2,000 children in North Carolina alone who are looking for their forever home. And I believe I saw data that over 135,000 across the United States were in that final stage where they are freed for adoption. There are tens of thousands who are in foster care in North Carolina and obviously across the country. So I just wanted to bring that, and obviously the hard work of DSS staff gets those children moved through our system and into permanent situations with the work of the court and all the hard work of our attorney and the social workers. So I just wanted to thank you.
Can I ask you a question
Sure.
before we go on? So you said we've got 55 in foster care right
Yes.
now. Are most of those going to go to a relative's home, or are they going to go back to their parents if things improve?
So our job is always to try to unify.
Right.
So we always have our primary track of reunification and then a secondary track of whether it's termination of parental rights or kinship or something like that. So at this point, I can't tell you how many of those 55 because I couldn't prejudge. I'm not going to prejudge that so many kids are not going to be back with their parents. Our goal is that all parents get their children, right? But we know that that's not always going to happen.
Well, let me ask you this, and I ask it a different way. How many of those 55 have been in foster care for more than a year?
That I don't know right off the top, but I would be happy to do a presentation on that. Overall, we've got just historically not as many as most counties, but I can't give you a number. I'm not currently tracking that, but I will be happy to get that data for you. I can tell you that I did bring my stats, and I can tell you that we have, of our 55 children, 30 are in licensed family homes, and 3 are in kinship homes. We have 2 who are in a group home setting, and usually that's because they need that level of care. And then we have 17 children who are in a kinship placement. So that just gives you an idea. And we have a few children who are in the 18 to 21-year-old program, which is once a foster child ages out of the program, North Carolina allows them to continue with our support to work towards an education, get an apartment, try to get some life skills, and move on to a successful path for a future.
Do those kids have a mentor? Is there a mentor program set up for that?
Well,
or-
we do try that. We have a links program in our county, and we have a new links worker, and he's doing amazing work. He is working with those kids, and we try to do things. Our attorney took some of the kids, and links is a program for children who are 13 and older who are in foster care. And we just took them on a camping trip. So they get to do things that hopefully other kids are doing. But some of us, like myself, I didn't go camping until I was way old because that wasn't what my dad was in the Army and he wasn't going to go camping. So, but those are the kinds of things we try to do with our kids, that they get some experiences that hopefully other kids are getting. And we do things like college prep for those who are interested. And so we're trying to build up the Links program. It had been vacant for a while, but our new worker is really trying to make it a very sound program.
Yeah, with
So we
the-
do work.
The college and even private school scholarships are
Yes.
available right off the top for children in foster care. So there are some resources out there for some tough situations, but they're out there. I got a question, and I don't need a specific answer, just kind of in general. Of the 55, how long is you seeing kids in foster care? I guess do they?
So again, that's a question I can't answer specifically. It depends very much on the court and the parent attorneys, and our goal is to get children moved through the system very quickly. But we have had children who've been in foster care for years and years.
That's what, not looking for, not trying to pin
Yes.
you down at all. But you see multiple placements for kids?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I just was working this week or last week with 2 very adorable little kids, and and one has already had 5 placements and the other had 7. That is not the norm, but it has a lot to do with the foster parents' ability to handle the behaviors exhibited by the children and their own safety net. Because even as a foster parent, you have to have that safety net. You are a parent, and you have to have resources and have the training and the wherewithal to deal with children. And sometimes the behaviors are very normal, but a person who's never had kids or whose kids have been gone a while, it's hard to step back in and be a parent. And we do have, it's a difficult role. It's not something that I would do myself because it is so hard. Because those children are going to leave you, and then what those children have been through. Most of our children don't have as many placements as the 2 I just referenced, but the 2 I'm thinking about they do not have any behaviors. They're just little kids, and it's hard. And when you have young foster parents, so we do try to do a lot of work with our foster parents, and we are very diligent in who we license, because not everybody has a willingness to be a parent, but not everybody has the capacity or the social extensions that they need to be a foster parent.
My wife and I are licensed foster parents, and Josh Lell, who was a county commissioner, was a licensed foster parent, and I know he's adopted at least 3.
House full.
Yeah, he's got a whole house full. I haven't talked to him in a while, so, but I knew they had a new one came to live with them not too long ago, so.
And we need, again, we're always recruiting, and if we can't license them, there are many organizations that we can link them up with, or other counties, because we don't run a licensing, a foster parent class it's a long process, and we don't have one every month. So we run maybe 2 or 3, sometimes 4 a year.
There is a need for people, for families that are mature people that can handle little kids that don't have anything in the whole, they have nothing in the world, and they need somebody. Sign up and take the classes, and
And the older kids too.
And the older kids too.
A lot of folks want the little ones, but the older children are just as in need of care and love.
And if not more so. And
Exactly.
but these kids need somebody. They don't have anything. Think about if your children were in that position. And if you want to do good, that's something you can do.
Thank you. I just wanted to do that and thank my adoption and foster care and all my social work staff for their hard work. So today my presentation centers on the energy programs. And as a reminder from earlier meetings, energy programs are federally mandated, and they are governed by General Statute 108A, which you guys have heard over and over and over. That governs the majority of what we do at DSS. So low-income energy assistance program is the first program I'd like to discuss. It's known as, we call it LEAP, and we string letters together and make them words. And so LEAP provides for a one-time yearly benefit to those individuals who are eligible, and the money that they get from this program is sent directly to their energy provider. So it does not go to the individual, it goes to the energy provider. And this year the state submitted a proposal to the federal government, and we've increased the amounts for individuals who apply for this program. Last year it was $200, $300, or $400. This year it will be $300, $400, or $500. And so you'll see on a future slide that while the benefit is more, it will mean probably that we'll be able to help fewer people, because our money hasn't increased tremendously. So this program opens up December 1st through the 31st for individuals who are 60 or older, disabled, or receiving services through the Division of Aging and Adult Services. And so this first month in December will only be for those people. That way we can ensure that the most needy folks get access to the funding first. And typically in counties you see individuals lined up for, around buildings. And so my word to the community would be the money will not run out day one. So, you don't have to come and stand in line at 2 or 3 in the morning, which we've seen in other counties. In a county I worked in, yes, sir?
Oh, with the money being more and the pot being the same, do the requirements stay the same?
Yes.
Or is it tighter?
No, you'll see, I'm going to talk about the income limits. They're fairly tight, and they have not tightened, but they are fairly tight. It is low income,
But
for
this always
sure.
runs out.
We typically spend all our money, but often we go into February before we've exhausted all our money. This year, because the benefit's a little bit more for each person or each family, it could run out a little sooner. But so, starting in January, anybody can come in and apply, even those folks who were in the first group who missed, maybe, you didn't feel like coming December, 3rd, you wait till January 2nd. You can do that. I urge anybody who meets that first category to try to come in December. And then January through March, we run the program for anybody. Obviously, they have to meet eligibility criteria. And once the funds are gone, the program is closed. This year, the state has requested a waiver that if there's any money across the state remaining, then anybody who was approved will get, it will be divvied up. Let's say there's, 100,000 families who applied and there's $100,000. Well, obviously, you'd only get $1, but that would go to your provider. So any remaining money would be divided up between those who were approved. So there'll potentially be a small additional check at the end of March that individuals can get. But to be eligible for LEAP, an individual has to have at least one U.S. citizen or non-citizen who meets eligibility criteria in the home. So that would be a resident alien who's lawfully permitted to work here and things like that. They have to have reserve at or below $2,250, which is things like, bank account balances, cash on hand, retirement accounts. So we look at resources. They have to be responsible for their heating costs. So they couldn't come in and apply for, a neighbor. They have to be responsible for themselves. And they have to meet the income test, which is at 130% of federal poverty rate. For one person, that's $1,353 or about $16,500. And we do have deductions that we use when they're employed. There are deductions, child care, if you're paying court-ordered child support, if you are working, there are deductions. So for a family of 4, that amount is $2,790 or about $33,400. So again, it's not a huge amount, but if families are heating with coal or wood, they automatically qualify for, well, they don't automatically, but if they're eligible and meet all other eligibility criteria, they get $300. Other families, families 1 through, household size 1 through 3, will be eligible for a $400 or $500 benefit, depending on where they fall in the poverty line. And then individuals who are over 4 in the household will qualify for $400 or $500. Again, the lower of the income would qualify for $500, and the higher of the income bracket would qualify for $400. But my staff goes through that. We have everybody who does eligibility is trained to do this because it does create a huge volume of work at DSS. So for all staff to just rotate through, and that helps the client not have to wait so long. So that's LEAP, and we have published, yes, sir?
The people who burn wood,
Yes.
is there a provision for them for local people to give them wood? Or for them to get like fire, because there's a lot of firewood
Well,
around.
we don't engage in that. Obviously, if somebody wanted to post a sign or something and give free, but we don't coordinate that. If an individual purchases wood, then we would make sure that the check go to their wood provider or their coal provider. But we don't engage in soliciting free wood. We just don't have the capacity for that. But that would be something we would welcome that folks do, because it is very hard to heat a home if you're using wood and you have a really cold winter. So, and $300 does not go that far. So we did publish the LEAP program. I'm still going back in the Taylorsville Times, and the radio has done an announcement that this program is opening. So we will be again soliciting applications starting December 1. So Sipp is our next program. It is also an energy program. It is a federally funded program, and it assists individuals and families who are experiencing heating or cooling related crisis. And the individuals have to be in crisis when they come to us, and it has to be medically or health related, and it has to be related directly to heating and cooling, not just my power was turned off. It has to be a heating or cooling related emergency. And staff look at each case by case, and often we get doctor's notes. Obviously, a very elderly person in the summer or the winter can tolerate the temperatures a lot less than somebody my age or a teenager. And so that age obviously has something to play with that. Individuals who qualify can get up to $600 a fiscal year, and this program does run from July 1 through June 30th of every year, and the state and the federal government issues a new allocation every federal and state fiscal year. So the criteria for Sipp is about the same as LEAP, except the Sipp program is at 150% of poverty, and that for one person is about $18,700, and for a family of four, about $38,600. And they do have to have a utility statement that shows that they're in crisis, meaning they are going to experience a cutoff, they can't pay their bill. The utility statement they have to be responsible for utilities, and they obviously have to be in an energy-related crisis. And again, my staff determines that. So for the data, just to show you what we did last year, and I think you saw some of this data already at an earlier presentation, but these allocations are capped, and so last year we expended $138,000, and we approved 641 applications. And so you can see this year we are currently, we have an equal allocation of $117,000. Now, the state is continuing to ask counties who don't always expend all their money, will they reallocate? And so we may get additional money. We typically don't run out of Sipp until late in March. And we do try to get our hands on a little extra money every year. LEAP, you can see, is a little bit less this year. And again, there could be additional money. It all hinges on federal, if the federal government has an additional allocation or the state reallocates money, there is a potential. We, as of the middle of October, we had issued $26,000 in benefits, and as of Friday, we issued $30,000. When it's colder, we have a much heavier business in Sipp, as we do with, even in the summer when it gets really hot. But the winter is coming, and so we see the increase of our workload. LEAP, we haven't started, so I have no data to share with you, but I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Can you go back the slide there? So, 138,000 last year, but this year it's 117,000?
Yes.
What caused that to reduce?
So the state General Assembly figures out how much money they've got, and then they divide it up by a formula to counties. So I don't know if it was the state got less money or the formula changed just slightly. But that, and this year they decided to equally distribute 50-50. Last year I think it was 65-40, 65-35. Slightly different division between Sipp and LEAP.
I mean, we'll be losing $30,000 between the two this year. That's a
Right.
lot of.
And we could, like I said, get more because we do always ask when reallocation time comes. We try to spend every bit of the money we can on our residents, and then if there's additional money available, we do try to get that.
So, going back to fiscal year 18-19, you had 641 total applications, 627 of them approved. Is that households, or is that, you may have the same person submitting 3 applications on different months?
So it's both. It's households, but it could be some, because you can access up to $600 in Sipp. So a person could have come in the summer, let's say, July 15th when the program started, and had $300 towards their cooling cost, and then come in January and get the remaining towards their heating costs. So I don't know the breakdown of, but it is households who apply, and they could apply multiple times. Typically, because of the cost of heating, it usually, $600 doesn't go very far in some of the homes because they're not very well insulated.
Well, I mean, you're looking at 627 applications. That would be somewhere between $225 and $250 per application.
Right.
So doesn't go a long ways.
And it is based on, so an individual may want to get $600, but their cutoff is $225. So that's why there's multiple applications, because we're not usually going to, unless propane or kerosene,
Right.
typically, because the fuel tanks, most of the time, the providers won't deliver except a certain volume. And so we do typically issue that volume.
Very interesting information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do want to make a comment here. Stated, I think the income was 33,000 or so.
Oh, yeah, sure.
No, you're fine. You don't have to go back up there. It was around 33,000.
33, it depends on which program you're talking about. For Sipp,
Mm-hmm.
for LEAP, 33,400 for a family of 4.
Well, I sat here and broke that 33 down just to kind of put in perspective what folks are looking at. So I think it's important to mention, if you figure in housing, groceries, gas, clothes, car, insurance, electric, heating, cooling, school supplies, because you said family of 4, so there's 2 kids, I'm assuming. Your extras, birthdays, activities, personal items, haircuts, medical.
Not extra.
There is no extra. After you break down the necessities, that leaves approximately $2,000 to $2,900 for all those items I just mentioned per year. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood and had that in the correct perspective, I guess.
Big needs. Any other comments or questions for Ms. Baker? All right, we will now have a community disease annual report from Ms. Billy Walker, the Assistant Health Director.
Good evening. I am here to present the annual Communicable Disease Report, and I'm going to just briefly mention what communicable diseases are. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but those are infectious diseases that can be transmitted between person to person. There are non-communicable diseases such as cancer, heart attack, and stroke. Reportable diseases, those are diseases that we have to report to the state, or like territorial jurisdictions have to report to the state. The next slide. Our role in communicable disease is pretty much immediate surveillance. we are charged to go and, let's say your kid is at college and they go to the ER and they have any reportable disease, it comes back to this county. And so we have to follow up with that. We have to call, we have to make sure that they were treated if those symptoms subsided, and if their partners or some people they were in contact with were also treated. We also report to the state anything major. Let's say it's salmonella. That I just heard this morning there was salmonella, I think, in California. And so when that happens, we are making lots of phone calls, calling people, seeing if, what they ate, what they drank, where they ate, where they shopped, stuff like that. And I also added the general statute number that goes along with that. We also have an EPI team, and it's a multidisciplinary team that we have at the health department. And what we do is we respond to any outbreak. We'll do that surveillance. We have different positions on that team. We also plan exercises in the community with various entities just to make sure that we're prepared for anything that may come. In the event of an outbreak, we pull other nurses too. We pull our school nurses and other nurses, maybe retired nurses, to help us go and do that surveillance, because it could be a lot of people that we would have to interview. Where do the numbers come from? We use the NCEDS is what we call it. It's Electronic Disease Surveillance System, and we also go through the EPI with North Carolina. We do general communicable diseases, vaccine preventable diseases, and sexually transmitted diseases. So those are the three categories that we look at, and those are the ones that I talk about. This is the 2018-2019 communicable disease and vaccine preventable disease. Here, it's really just 2018, but our year runs 2018-2019, and we're a year behind, so it's really 2018 numbers. But the major thing that we saw was hepatitis C, and the rest of the year looks pretty good. Well, pretty much it's all gastrointestinal diseases.
Can you back up one slide?
Mm-hmm.
Legionellosis? Nellosis? Is that Legionnaire's disease?
Mm-hmm.
We actually had a confirmed case of that here?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide. So this is just to let you know that really this year doesn't look any different than any other year. Lots of gastrointestinal diseases. We did have one death last year, and CRE is it's just a bacteria that grows. It's actually at a nursing home, long-term facility. We actually did a lot of work right there. We had to work with the hospitals that those patients came from. We had to work with the long-term care facility on hand washing techniques, if those patients share a room or if they're isolated. It took several times going out there. We also had to go back several times and test those patients until that was resolved. Next slide.
Mr. Walker, question. When you have a case like that, and you get multiple in a facility, I know there's a cleanliness factor of the people, the facility. I mean, that really almost a sterilization of the place, I guess, right?
Yes. Lots of times it could be just turnover and just re-educating that staff on the techniques that are the proper way to hand washing techniques. We went out one time and they were sharing a certain tool or instrument, and so they ended up having to do patient-specific instruments. So it's stuff like that. It's trying to find ways to prevent that spread of disease. But it's very taxing on our staff, can be.
But hygiene is the key.
Yes, definitely. This is a slide that shows from 2014 to 2018, and since we're an accredited facility, we have to show you the trends. And so I tried to put it all on one screen because it's hard to see if you go to each screen. So this is just a quick glance at where we're standing. And like I said, gastrointestinal is our major issue. Next slide. This is just the state CD and vaccine preventable slide. I just thought I would put it in there as well. It gives you the breakdown of what North Carolina had. The next one is our sexually transmitted diseases, and so you'll see the 4 that we actually had for our area.
What's PID and NG, go back there, NGU, what's that?
Non-gonorrheal urethritis, I'm sorry. And then PID is pelvic inflammatory disease. Next slide. So the summary for the STDs for our county is chlamydia and gonorrhea. We see this every year. It's sort of an up and down roller coaster every year. Sometimes it's down, sometimes it's up. Pretty much it's education, going in the schools, educating our the youth, just making sure that their abstinence is definitely a prevention, but education is that second form that we do. It's never easy. Chlamydia and gonorrhea, here are the state, and you'll see that we are that second little blue. That's hard to see on that slide, but we're the second circle on both chlamydia and gonorrhea. Next slide. And here is, again, 2014 through 2018. And I just put it on the bar graph because you can see how it's going up and down. And then I just put the reason that we have to come out and tell y'all about STDs and communicable diseases because we're accredited, and so we have to have our advisory board hear this information. You have to hear it, and we have to notify the county.
Can we go back 2 slides?
It's just different colors.
What's latent syphilis?
Latent syphilis is just that last degree that they categorize syphilis. There's primary, there's early, there's latent. Latent would be the last, and it's where you've delayed treatment, or maybe you've had the disease, didn't really manifest symptoms, and so that can cause like neurological problems and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a question about the flu. So the flu shot this year, do they think that they've kind of got the shot tailored to what type of flu is going to be most present out there?
I haven't heard the percentage at what they think it's going to be effective this year, but that they do try to make the strain from the strains that they see overseas before it comes here. Our county's seeing about where we rank normally for flu season about this time, and there has been 1 death in North Carolina, and I think it was central, like Raleigh area.
I need to get my flu shot.
Yes, you definitely do.
My wife's been after me every day almost.
Got mine.
We all had the flu shot last year, and we all still got the flu. So
Yeah,
it
and
does happen.
It does,
But it was not as bad.
But normally, if you've had the flu shot, you won't get as sick as you would if you did not have that immunity to that.
Yeah. And we had a bad flu season last year, if I
Yes,
remember
yes, we
correctly.
did. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Good report on bad information.
That's right, that's right. It is not a very happy topic.
Any other questions for Ms. Walker?
Thanks for the report.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Thank you.
And now we'll have NC Care 360 from Ms. Leanne Wisnett, our Consolidated Health and Human Services Director.
I just want to briefly make sure our community is aware. This is actually the first statewide coordinated care network, and we're actually in the second rollout phase. There's already 21 counties on board, and there's actually some really good data coming from this, that it's really helping clients access services electronically, and we know that's the wave of the future. So we've had our first countywide meeting just to let community providers know that it's out there, and we're going to start enrolling. We're hoping in the next few weeks to get community services on board. They're hoping to have Alexander County ready for rollout the first of the year, which I think is very aggressive, especially through the next 2 months of holidays. But what the program does is allow anybody in the community that wants to sign up, that sees clients, particularly at service providers, to enroll in this secure electronic network. So if a client comes in the health department, for instance, and needs housing that we don't provide, we could help them enter their information in this electronic database that's secure and send it to those people in Alexander County, or it can be other counties that serve Alexander that have signed up. They would get this client's information, and Guilford County had a great situation where a client came in 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, was in an emergency situation. Within an hour, a provider contacted them back to start taking care of that client. So, we're kind of worried because we do have a little more limited resources in some counties, but at least this is a quick way for us to respond. So we had about 12 or 15 community folks come to that first meeting, and we're going to continue to expand that. It's providers like housing, health, employment, transportation, all of our departments will be able to sign up. So I just wanted you to see it. If you want more information, the North Carolina DHHS.gov website has all this on there. There's a way for you to sign up. If anybody wants to contact me, I'll be happy to help them. We will continue to outreach to our other programs. There were several that weren't there that day we started, but there's 21 counties already on board, and we're in phase 2 with 22 counties. The first phase was down east. This is the first one more out west. Catawba, Iredell, Lincoln, Cleveland, and Alexander are in this next 22. Caldwell and Wilkes was not in that. Counties were contacted and asked, so some may have wanted to wait till the next phase. They're hoping that all 100 counties are implemented by the end of 2020. Behavioral health. You need to set fees for us. I did take these behavioral health. We have a grant, that 2-year grant to get behavioral health. We have our licensed clinical social worker on board. We've written our policies. We're getting contracts in place. And before we can bill, we have to set a standard rate. What we did was take Medicaid rate, and generally we inflate that about 20% just to make sure you cover all insurance pricing. We have to set one price for all payers. That's private pay, insurance, and Medicaid, which makes it challenging. We try to find a balance between what that private individual can afford, but recoup as much of the Medicaid and insurance rate as we possibly can. So you'll see Medicaid rate listed in black, and luckily, there's not a lot of codes. If you looked at some of our medical programs, there would be like 10 pages of codes. But luckily, you've got one screen. So, but our price is listed, and the advisory board unanimously voted to approve these. So I bring that to you as their recommendation. They recommended, and I just kind of broke that into 40 and 60% pay, because of course 100% is our price. Okay, so Medicaid and insurance would be billed that first price if that's what you choose to go with. This is not a mandatory program. So I don't propose we slide to zero because we don't want to break the bank. We don't want that to come back to taxpayers having to pick up a huge price of that. The next slide does show you kind of that breakdown of, we go to 200% of poverty level with our scales. So it shows you a household of one. I thought that might help you a little bit as you're thinking about who's paying. Our recommendation is to slide no lower than 40%. Now, you could choose to go to 20. 40 is what we do for our dental program. So we were kind of leaving that standardized. It's certainly up to you. We can always set it at 40, and we can track those first clients that are private pay. We can use the grant for this first year for those clients, but we're trying to get it manageable for the years going forward when we're self-sufficient. So we really have that grant to support us this year until next July. And we do charge. So clients do not have to come in with their full amount. If they don't have that, we will put it, we call it we put it on an account for them. And they can pay us, they can make payments. $5 a month, whatever they can afford. We don't turn them into collections. We do the debt set off, so if they're going to get back tax money and they haven't paid us in over a year and owe over $50, we do that program, but we don't do a collection agency or any of that. So that's kind of our proposal, and you might give you an idea that same income that Ms. Baker was talking about is pretty close to what we're doing. I think their income's 130% of poverty, and ours is 200. So, but it's still not huge incomes for families. Yes, sir.
So, Leanne, can you go back to the previous slide? So we hear a lot about, there's a mental health crisis. There's not access to mental health. There's not enough access to mental health. So what are you seeing as far as your office? Do you guys stay booked out, or do you have slow times? I mean, what's going on there?
We really have not. Remember, we had to build policies. We have to get contracts in place. You've got to do pricing. So everything we've done up in this point is to build the program. Okay. We're hoping in January to actually start seeing those clients. Okay, we're going to start with our pregnant moms first.
I thought you had already offered this before, but we're doing a new.
Nope, this is brand new. So we really are. We're feeling our way through this. This is kind of like dental. When we first started that year, we had to monitor really, really close to see how we booked it, how much, we were actually I anticipate our clientele is going to be a majority of Medicaid because we're starting with our in-house health department clients, because we want those pregnant women to get their needs met quickly for that baby. So pregnant moms is priority number one. We will get them immediately, walk them across the hall while they're there. Then our family planning clients, then we're going to outreach to the community. So, I think we'll be busy real quick. How's that? Okay. But we haven't billed any yet, right, because you haven't set fees yet.
Okay, so if we set the fee for psychotherapy for crisis for 60 minutes at $128 an hour, will Medicaid be, most likely picking that up if it's a Medicaid-approved person? Are they going to pick that bill up?
Yes.
They're going to pick up 100% of the $128?
They won't pay that full amount. They'll pay the $106,
okay,
and we'll write the rest off.
Okay.
It's kind of like when you get your insurance EOB and they billed this crazy amount and they paid this much, and you get billed your copay. Same thing. Okay. We do the exact same. So it may be a United Healthcare, and of course with Medicaid managed care, we're going to build those 5 Medicaid managed care plans for this as well. Billing is a fun process.
Yeah. So if somebody walks in off the street and they are not on Medicaid, then, for that same thing, you're going to bill their insurance, if they have insurance, $128.
Yes.
And then there'll be some sort of reduction back and forth, I'm sure, on that.
Yes.
If
They'll
they
fall,
don't-
we'll also do sliding fee scale. Let's say they come in and they do have insurance, but they fall into 0% pay, for instance. Their income's very low. We will not bill, we would only bill at the 40% level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we wouldn't now, let's say they probably don't have it. If they don't have it, we're not gonna not see them.
Okay.
We will see them and take care of their needs. But if they're able to pay a copay or some of that, we will put it like on an account for them. Does that make sense? I mean, you will see, you've not had to do those write-offs, but part of our process is once a year, well, actually twice a year, we'll do write-offs just to keep our books cleaned up. And you'll see those. I did that last year right before y'all took over, just so you could learn and not have to do that immediately out of the gate. But you'll see that. We keep that as reasonable as we can. We work with people. Number one, we want to serve the community and meet their needs. So we're trying not to set this up to be a deterrent, but yet we've got to kind of find a balance for taxpayers too, and the program. So we're hoping that we have enough insurance and Medicaid that at least covers cost. If we cover cost, that's our goal, is to cover cost.
I know dental and psychotherapy are slightly different.
Just a little.
But the process is the same. And having previously been on the health board, seeing how the whole dental piece evolved and worked, it worked beautifully. The plan worked. I have no doubt that this same approach will work with the behavioral health programs. And also, it's very assuring too that you guys have a complete unanimous recommendation from your board. The service is different, but the process is the exact same. And it's a rodeo that you've been in before, and I feel comfortable that it's going to work out beautifully, and I commend y'all in this undertaking because we hear it all the time. Like Commissioner Mayberry said, you know, we're underserved, we're no served, and this is an aspect of our society that we'll be able to take care of.
That's our goal, is to meet those unmet needs in the community.
Okay, got a question.
Sure.
And this probably doesn't relate to what I'm going to ask about at all, or maybe at some point in the future it will. Committals by the sheriff's department. Is this in any way going to be able to help them as far as that? No.
Probably not. Sorry. Those folks really have the needs that are probably out of our scope of care.
Okay.
We have one staff person, and so we're gonna really hit those anxiety, stress, substance abuse, the committals are more your bipolar, schizophrenia, those really high need categories that really take that psychologist, psychiatrist, that we just will not have that capacity. So we'll work hand in hand with all the other mental health systems. Hopefully we will make a difference in some of those lower, so that the, RHA can meet some of those greater needs, and we'll have all those networks to make referrals. So, but as far as really making a difference with that, I'm sorry, probably not. Just being honest.
I guess what I was thinking was, would it facilitate the handoff easier some way by working through the office? But okay,
Probably will not be our clients.
I got you.
But it is going to help that mama that's getting ready to have a baby that doesn't have
We
any other
sure
support.
hope so. And that baby's not in neonatal intensive care and having withdrawals, and that is devastating to watch a child just screaming in agony and withdrawals. So we hope to make a big impact and get people the care they need. Work on some of those traumas from childhood. I know you've probably all heard those early events and some of that trauma. If we can work through that and help them get to more stable functioning, we have high hopes for this program, and there's enough need for lots more providers, so we're going to be doing just a tiny piece of the need out there.
This is just another step to become full circle as a community, just like the 55 foster children that we have.
Mm-hmm.
If we can help get mama and somebody else straightened out a little bit, hopefully, maybe we won't
Exactly.
have that need.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it all comes full circle. It all affects something else.
It does. It does.
I'm
And
glad
you
to
know,
see it.
we're hoping to work with our school system. A lot of times, you know, the school system has lots more counseling and providers in the school, but then sometimes that whole family needs additional counseling. The parents need the additional counseling that the school's not able to have. So hopefully we'll be, you know, making those referrals between each other to get that whole family taken care of and improve.
And
You know, and it's not a quick process. I mean, it takes a lot of work to make a difference.
And that's what I was gonna ask you, when you said that, with the HIPAA rules as they are you able to do those referrals and?
We can, but we have to be very careful because we have purchased an electronic medical record for our behavioral health, and that behavioral health will be very controlled. Even our other clinicians within the health department will not see that piece of that person's record. So that pregnant mom may be in prenatal care and also in behavioral health. Only that licensed clinical social worker is going to see that behavioral health piece. That behavioral health information it's even more protected than the HIPAA. So we will follow all those. That's why we've taken so long getting those policy and procedures. And I mean, it's a big undertaking. It's something we've not done. And so we've had to do a lot of research, a lot of planning to be ready and follow all those rules. So it is very protected. Even when we get court orders, most of that cannot be released.
Well, and one other question. So if you get this piece in place, what is your future goals to expand on this?
We really are taking it one little step at a time. My goal is to get this one licensed clinical social worker in, program running smooth, in-house referrals. We have a great person hired. We're very excited. We're probably going to start with even letting her go in with each of our prenatal clients and just do a quick 15-minute, you know, a lot of times you have downtime while you're waiting for the provider to come in your room. You're sitting there with nothing to do and freezing on the exam table. So great time for that licensed clinical social worker to step in, get to know the client, do a brief interview and see what's going on. Then we make that soft handoff. You know, it's a whole lot easier to go see somebody if you've already met them, you know where they're at. We're hoping to reduce that barrier of transportation, time. So we're really excited. My goal for this next year is just to sustain that position, figure out, is our 40% fee right where we need to be? Where's our revenue coming and not? You know, and then we'll decide down the road. We really haven't said, okay, in 5 years we want to have 3 licensed clinics. Right now we have space for the one we have. Right. So,
Well,
so
I
we'd
think
be happy if that one's up and running and functioning well.
I think you'll see well, we know there's, a need for more.
There's a
Now,
huge
whether,
need.
That works out or not.
There's a
we'll see.
huge need. And that's going to let us integrate. We're going to have an integrated behavioral health model between our health department and the mental health piece. So it's very exciting because we're kind of one of the few health departments. I think there's only 3 out there providing any behavioral health programs. So definitely cutting edge. So we want to make sure it works right with we're going to start small and slow and be successful.
Right.
But we are very excited because there are so much needs. This kind of like we got into dental program. We kept seeing that need on our community health assessment year after year and year after year. We really don't want to have to provide the services. We want to insure the services. But like with dental for children, we just couldn't insure it. So that's how we got in the program. And that program's going into its 11th year. So that's really exciting. And we've seen great benefits from that. So this is just the next step and where we are in our community and what their needs are. But you do need to vote on those fees and the sliding fee scale.
Any questions for Ms. Wisnett? I would entertain a recommendation that we approve the recommendation from the advisory board for the sliding fee scale as proposed.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the fees and the sliding fee scale as recommended by the advisory board.
Have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Wisnett.
Thank you.
And saw Miss Macy Jones come in a minute ago, and I've forgotten that Macy and I think Darren Scott and myself were interviewed. This is a wonderful thing on how the world works by a man named Xavier Wang, who is from Beijing, China, went to school at the University of Iowa and then to Minnesota, ended up working for the Charlotte Observer and is a videographer intern for Columbia University working for WBTV, I believe is how that story ended. But he is doing a special on 100 counties in North Carolina and is just asked questions. What were challenges for our community? What were good things about our community? Why is this a great place to live? And all those things. And saw Miss Jones walk in, and she was one of the stars of the video. So it will be on the WBTV website, and then it'll be published statewide also at some point in time. We'll give you more information, but it ought to be a really good feature. So that concludes our Consolidated Human Health Services Board meeting. I will now entertain a motion for adjournment per closed session to North Carolina General Statutes, according to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A6 personnel.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Heard a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. We will adjourn. We will re-adjourn only to adjourn. Thank you.